Ali, the noble chosen like the divine. Sword gleaming in the African sky, truth as sharp as a lion's eye. From the sands of home to the valleys wide, holding justice in his hands, keeping secrets up at night's tide. Victory in the grave, wisdom that the heavens gave. Ali's light through the ages, future neath the graphy pages. Afrobeat pumps through the soul, Marty's calling, hearts made whole. Drums beating, ancestors whispers in the wind. My becoming destiny song, an old world end. Ali the guardian holding the line. In the heart of the grave, secrets intertwine. Victory in the grave, wisdom that the heavens gave. Ali's light through the ages, future neath the graphy pages. Afrobeat pumps through the soul, Marty's calling, hearts made whole. Mystic codes laced in rhythm, truth in every drum's vibration. From the grave's depth, the secret of eternal salvation. I'm a Mali's courage, a beacon so bright, guiding warriors of the future through the quantum night. Ancient tales mixed with deep wisdom flows in every crease. Ali's strength, Africa's pride, in the spirit will find release. From the dawn of time to future's verge, warriors calling, hearts made whole. Mystic codes laced in rhythm, truth in every drum's vibration. From the graves, get the secret of eternal salvation. Imam Ali's courage, a beacon so bright, guiding warriors of the future through the quantum night. Mystic codes laced in rhythm, truth in every drum's vibration. From the graves, depth, the secret of eternal salvation. Imam Ali, the noble chosen by the divine. Sword gleaming under African sky, truth as sharp as a lion's eye. Imam Ali's courage, a beacon so bright, guiding warriors of the future through the quantum night. Ancient tales mixed with beat, wisdom flows in every crease. Ali's strength, Africa's pride, in the spirit we find release. From the dawn of time to future's verge, warrior of light, Imam soul surges. Victory in the grave, wisdom that the heavens gave.
Word up, word up, word up, and I'm back, Aston Walker, with a new podcast type format thing that we'll be doing from here until I die, basically. So it's called The Victory is in the Grave podcast. I'm your host, Aston Walker, talking, a little bit of pop culture, but really it's the culmination of my journey to Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, which is the Prophet Muhammad's family. We're a very diverse and multicultural station which embodies the sort of superior DNA, African DNA of Adam, peace be upon him, and all the progressive and diverse portions of humanity that have populated the earth. So we're all African in that sense, if we sort of add a taxonomy, nomenclature to the dark-skinned true human, as opposed to the Neanderthal, European, Aryan, Caucasian ape. Not to say that the Neanderthal hybrid is any lesser of a human being in the sight of Allah. As we know, Allah only judges the heart, judges by the heart of the person. So, and to be fair, if you're from the Caribbean, the slave masters and their rape, wholesale rape and desecration of the African female means that a vast number of us from the Caribbean do actually have Neanderthal DNA. So we're hybrids in that sense. So it's only through the heart. So in essence, a show tinged, which is basically my papers. I'm a BCU Steamhouse researcher of note, I should add, courtesy of Sir Lenny BAE Systems Henry and Professor Carlo Secret Hitler Harvey, both no longer at BCU, which I've got mixed feelings about actually, but it's positive, yeah, overall. Big congratulations to Nathan Dewell, who's course leader for the computer games technology course, degree course. Well done, sir. I had the pleasure of being taught by Nathan, so I sent him a congratulations message. Didn't get a reply, but never mind. But the main thing is youth are what's strong. I am no youth, of course, being 55 this year. I'll be 55 this year. And the journey of me being attached somewhat to British media broadcasting, it all started in the form of rapping, the hummingbird, and performance, poetry. The technological aspect being the computer games at Six Ways Island and Neatchalls and 32 Dayvilles in town. Big up Mr. Glide and co et al. And it's just a case of fusing the communication of rap, poetry, oratory skills, and how that sort of morphed into public speaking and lectures and teaching. And here we are training people for the BBC, being a content provider for the BBC. Yes, my content. So I do market myself as a BBC content provider, which is rather nice. And also a BBC trainer. I've trained many people who have gone on, or recommended. I've recommended people to the BBC. So a little bit of my background there for new listeners to the Victory is in the Grave podcast. I am a Shia convert, a black Shia Western convert, which is an anathema to Khomeini and their ilk, and their followers of the, shall we call it, the petrodollar CIA Wilaya Faqih cult. I think is a fair assessment. But we'll dip into that later. But the main issue at hand, post October 7th, where the Hamas Sunni faction committed atrocities, basically, which is in keeping with the Sunni deen, or the Sunni Dajjal deen, which I postulate in a very academic way, with research and validation from such luminaries, Western luminaries in the top 500 Muslims, such as Sayyid Ammar Naqshbandi, who I actually met last week over there at Clifton Road. Gave him a copy of my book, The Curzon Building. More on that later. So a copy of that book is now with Sayyid Ammar Naqshbandi. Whether he reads it or not, I mean, that's entirely up to him, of course. But he received it in good humour, shall we say. So that was rather nice. I've always wanted to write a hefty tome. It's 500 pages, about 120,000 words. Available on Amazon, of course. And it was just wonderful to be able to give him a copy of the book. I've been listening to him for many years, nearly a decade now, I guess. Oh, well, yeah, probably coming up to a decade. Been listening to Syed Amar Nakshawani. My conversion happened in Winson Green Prison as a convicted thief. 2011. It's a very shameful way of entering into the Shia faith. But ultimately, it paid dividends. When I got out of prison, I gave lectures at Birmingham University. Gave a wonderful lecture there on my activism, which was in part, mainly to Friction Arts. Big up Sandra and Lee. Grudgingly. I say that grudgingly. I don't really like them, really, but, you know. I'm trying to be generous. I'm trying to have a more generous air going forward in the sense of the plurality of views that are now coming to the fore, and the removal of the veil, so to speak, where the recent NBC Muawiyah documentary, who I believe it'd be the fifth caliph, may Allah curse him, other opinions are available. So we obviously have to balance it. This is a very academic exercise, research exercise, but also look at the metaphysics and the self, because really this is the whole process of Victory is in the Grave podcast is admonition of self, really looking at my life and how I've come to be here, how the satanic forces of censorship that have dogged my career, so to speak, where I've been censored by puny and very ignorant intellects who have deemed it fit to phone in and say, "Oh, Aston, Tempe," and all the rest of all that nonsense, when clearly my learning and experience is far superior to the one who wishes to censor my voice unsuccessfully. It didn't work. But the point being, we now come to a stage where I myself have just embraced my polymathy and my ability to connect dots, to research, to present the research, to discuss with people of learning, whether it's in the spiritual realm or be in the nuclear science, atomic sciences. My graphene research with Professor Jonathan Coleman et al. Over there at Trinity College Dublin. And the beautiful people, I'm going to start calling them the beautiful people at BCU Steamhouse, where I invented and filed a patent for a UVC LED water sterilizer. Now, regular listeners, what's interesting is I've come on Facebook, I'm quite, active on social media. When I tell people that I'm going to come back on the radio, I'm always so humbled and grateful when people say, "Oh, you're back, you're going to be talking again," and so on and so forth. Because I don't really think anyone's listening, quite frankly. But it's always beautiful to hear members of the public in Birmingham, say that they do tune in. So thank you. I'm very grateful to you. It's quite difficult with all the, obviously, being threatened with police action and being censored and being denied a degree and all that kind of crazy stuff. But hopefully, with Victory is in the Grave, the Victory is in the Grave podcast, hopefully the satanic, corrupt, great and the awful of Birmingham, in academia, in business, in politics especially, that satanic, corrupt shower, Labour, Tory, Liberal, they're all the same to me. Hopefully they can now realise that the whole aim of my work and research is for the grave. That's what it's for. Yeah, I mean, shocking and stunning as that might sound to devil worshippers and pedophiles and God knows what satanic deviltry they're up to. This is a radio show. My research is for my grave. That's why I've called the show Victory is in the Grave, because that is where, when one dies, and this is according to the Shia Jafari Madhab school, it's when one is in one's grave, when one meets the angel of death, peace be upon him, that is where life actually begins. And that's what I've called the podcast Victory is in the Grave. And that is to honour Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali al-Farouk, Ali al-Siddiq, because Umar al-Khattab and Abu Bakr Siddiq, may Allah curse them, other opinions of the Sunni, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, obviously they have a different opinion, but this is a multicultural, a pluralistic radio station, so we encourage plurality of views. So, may Allah curse Abu Bakr and Umar, usurped the rights of Ali and usurped his names. I only learnt that, in the last sort of 40 hours. I had no idea that these names and attributes were the attributes of Imam Ali. Wonderful. So there you have it. So victory is in the grave when the Imam Ali was assassinated. They could only, he was hated by Aisha. May Allah curse her. Other views and opinions are available. The Sunni view, who venerates Aisha. The Shia do not. So, for listeners, new listeners, or casual listeners, or Sunni clerics, or Salafi extremists, we're just clearing the air and putting forward the case going forward for the Victories in the Grave podcast. So Imam Ali, he was assassinated by the Abu Bakr Saqifa entity, we should call it. And the Saqifa, for those who are just tuning in, the Saqifa was the democratic, one has to be generous and gracious to the opposing side. The Saqifa was where political intrigue reached its zenith, quite frankly, where Abu Bakr Umar conspired to usurp the rights of Imam Ali while Imam Ali was washing the body of the Prophet. So that's interesting in of itself. That's 11 after Hijrah, of course. So we bring these things to the fore, into the discussion. But if you go on TikTok, which I would say TikTok probably constitutes, between TikTok and YouTube, probably constitutes the bleeding edge of real-time discussion of what's the zeitgeist, as it was called in my time, in the 80s, the zeitgeist. The spirit of the age, the ghost of the age, yeah? The TikTok, and there's so many debates, there's so many live discussions. And to be fair, on both sides, whether Sunni or Shia, in the polemical space, at least there's a discussion. Because, I embraced Islam in 1991, where, this was the time of total Wahhabism. I was a Green Laner, of course. The Wright Street Small Heath Masjid, Bilal Davis, Paul Davis, Nigel, Rodney, Joseph Bowers and et al. I brought them over to Green Lane. Obviously, when people ask me about the Sunni years, I often refer to it as my time as a devil worshipper or a worshipper of Satan. It's the only way I can explain it, really, because being lied to by Deobandi clerics, Riyad al-Haq, Hamza Yusuf, Bilal Phillips, great Western scholars, of course. I mean, the Arabic is far more superior. Their knowledge of the Quran far more superior to mine. But being lied to, just on a very visceral, human level, obviously I take umbrage and resent that, quite frankly, but one has to move on. So, victory is in the grave. Imam Ali was assassinated. This is the Prophet's cousin, who also married the Prophet's daughter, Fatima, peace be upon her, the Lady of Heaven. which was the name of a great film. And when he was he was bleeding and dying, he said, "Now I am victorious. Now I am successful." So that's just to give you the origin of why I'm calling the podcast "Victory is in the Grave." So there's a bit of background story. However, the background to the historical seerah of Islam, fascinating as it is, really, that is the crux of the matter. Someone said something very interesting about Sahih Bukhari, which is a collection of hadith in the Sunni corpus. And I thought this was really clever. This is really clever stuff. They said, and this is a Shia individual of the Shia faith. He said Sahih Bukhari is basically about the murder of Fatima, and all the rest is footnotes, which I thought was just brilliant. It's really, really good. Just to give, the listeners an understanding, because going forward, and I have said this for many years, that going forward, I'm a filmmaker and, musician and all the rest, PRS member, voting rights and all that good stuff. The debates in the future are just going to be this. This is going to be the only debate. It's going to be about the dynamics. We have many in Britain, many Muslim MPs, Sunni Muslim MPs, legislation, police and so on and so forth. But they're Sunnis and they're not Shia, which is totally different. It's in opposition. It's diametrically polar opposite. My reading, my understand is that Sunnis, Islam is kufr. It's the Dajjal's religion. Other opinions are available. I have to say that because Ofcom rules and the chairman and the station manager and so on and so forth. So going forward with these discussions, all these, others may call them ramblings, I don't know. But really to give the listener the opportunity to really grasp that the coming decades, centuries, millennia, we're only going to be talking about this. This is the crux of the matter. Whether it's Trump and Ukraine and Putin. And you might be saying, oh, Aston, not everything's about that. I've got BMW and my mortgage and, I'm watching Netflix and all. Trust me on this. Everything all comes down to this matter. This is the supremacy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as wajal. This is the beauty of it. You can't escape it. Roman numerals or Arabic numerals, even your counting goes back to Allah. Even your money, for example. And again, this is in my paper which I've published. Let me give you the title of my paper so you get a better understanding. So the title of my new paper is, how many reads has it got? Oh, it's only got one on that one. In fact, it's got none on that one. Anyway, so this is the title of my academic paper. Independent academic, I should say, because I haven't got a degree or anything. Don't want to upset anybody. So, Sunni petrodollar Islam is racist Arab coloniser kufr and the deen of the Dajjal. Yes, so let me just break down that title. Yeah, so Sunni petrodollar Islam. So if we just take that aspect of the title. So the Saudi Arabia satanic entity, other opinions are available, of course. I have to add that caveat. That was incepted by Sir Lawrence of Arabia, the British colonial entity. So we all know that Queen Elizabeth I and her, the person that had her ear, 007 John D, alchemist. And through that, theatricality, Shakespeare, but the colonial, satanic colonial deviltry, racism, colonization, this is what I postulate in my paper, was directly influenced by the Sunni Bani Umayyah Kuffar. Khalid bin Walid, Abu Bakr, Umar, Aisha, Hafsa, may Allah curse them. That's how, they're sort of taking of the Quran and the rights of Ali and misinterpreting and then obviously colonizing Africa. There was the wars in Dongola, present day Sudan, I believe, Lower Nubia. And again, what I'm trying to do, or what we're trying to do with these discussions, is to connect the dots. Because if the people that are venerated by the majority, billion and a half, Sunni Muslims and so on and so forth, Africans too, and all the rest of it, they are following an actual satanic, mass murdering, racist cult that from the get-go had designs, and obviously killing a prophet. We can go back to the Pharisees and the children of Israel, the Jews, and Jesus, and so, who was Jewish, of course, or tribe of Judah, if you will, to be more accurate, I suppose. And how he was plotted against. Because the key thread, I guess, is people who tell the truth, people who want to present an alternative view that may not chime with the established status quo are always going to be hated. I mean, I have no doubt. I mean, some of the faces of people when I talk to them, the blackness, the darkness, is just, because I see it, I've been studying faces and for such a long time, decades, for most of my life. So I see it a mile off. A very satanic look. They call it killing with kindness. I just call it hypocrisy. That sort of English satanic way of smiling in people's faces when you really hate them or you want to kill them or you want to, you just can't stand them. So I get a lot of this. So I meet a lot of people like this who are just hypocrites. They claim they're not corrupt. They claim this, they claim that, but just horrible people, just nasty people. Because you will always know a person by their deeds, by their works. And the unfortunate thing is, I'm just speaking about Birmingham and the councillor this, or Labour Party member MP this, or businessman this, or professor this, and all the rest of it. This idea that Aston Walker's a convicted thief and he's no good, and you don't like him, and kill him, and don't give him anything, don't help him, all that kind of deviltry. I mean, that matter, professor or Labour MP or Tory MP or businessman, this bank or whatever, KPMG, Price Water, whatever, that matter will be resolved in the grave. That's why I've called it Victory is in the Grave. You see? For him, that means, do you understand? Okay, so, the key thing is people and hypocrisy who will smile in your face, say that they love you and, they care and all the rest of it. Really, they hate your guts and just wish you harm. These are satanic, devil, horrible, non-human, alien, off-world entity type activity, and you just got to deal with it. Well, I've found I've just had to deal with it, and the only way that I have been able to deal with it is just by learning more stuff and just being kind to people. So it's your kindness, it's your ability to, take the moral high ground that they can't stand. They just really hate that. They can't stand it, yeah. And to keep doing it, even while you're dying, while blood's pouring out your neck or your eyes or your ears or your gut or whatever, until you embrace the angel of death, peace be upon him. And that's where life begins. That's where Allah has deemed that the correctness of thought, the correctness of the mind, the the correctness of consciousness is proven. It's death, it's dying, it's in your grave. And this is all that I've put forward. And the backlash and the censorship and who's Aston thinking? Who's he thinking? You know, when they're doing whatever satanic, Freemasonic, deviltry, or whatever, pedophile activity, whatever, Satanism. I'll just call it Satanism. Yeah? You know, I don't care. You know, it doesn't bother me. This idea that I want to be famous or I want to be a celebrity or I feel I'm entitled to media coverage by Central or the BBC or my films must be played at the BBC. Hi, you're demanding, huh? No, it's the grave. Let me repeat that again. Victory is in the grave. That's where I'm going to defeat you, BBC. That's where I'm going to defeat you, Birmingham City University Steam House. In our graves. That's where we'll decide. Yes? Members of His Majesty's Constabulary, MI5, GCHQ. The matter will be decided in the grave. Okay? And I'll keep repeating that. Week in, week out. I have my own studio. I have my own recording equipment. I have my own ability to make films. I have my own ability on YouTube channels and so on, and TikTok and so on and so forth. But I'll keep on repeating over and over and over, ad nauseum, victory is in the grave. I think we need some music. Yeah, let's lighten the mood. Let's change the vibe. And I'll probably dip into more of the actual paper, yeah? We'll dip into more of the paper. In fact, yeah. So a little current. So this is an interesting. It's an interesting little track I'm going to play for you. So using Chinese, you like the way I segue there. In 1 minute it's quite deep, metaphysical, religious, sunni shia polemics, and now we're moving into more showbiz things. So this is a artificially intelligence generated bit of music that I actually wrote the lyrics, but the voice is synthetic, the music is synthetic, but most of it is these days. And this is a little tune about Supacell. So Supacell was a sci-fi, but I support it initially on Deadline. My comment is still on the Deadline website. So I supported it. I was like really gung-ho for Ratman and all the rest of it. MBE, Shiro story, all that Blue story, all that good stuff. Signed to Rock Nation, etc. So it came out. There was some horrible dialogue in there about, God doesn't exist and Clarence 13X, it just had Jay Z's fingerprints all over it. Just satanic Aleister Crowley, just Jay Z nastiness, Sean Carter, ego nastiness. Anyway, so it came out. Anyway, the Jay Z's having his troubles. He's been accused of rape by a 13-year-old. She was 13 at the time. These are accusations, of course. Again, I had to add that caveat. This is Ofcom regulations, of course. So the hypocrites at the BBC are doing a podcast on Diddy. Bunch of hypocrites, because Diddy, Jay Z, Tim Westwood, hello. Tim Westwood was very much at the centre of things. So the BBC are just trying to cover their tracks. It's not going to work because it's going to go to court, and Tony Busby, who's litigating, the whole BBC thing is just going to crash. This is my analysis. I'm not going to call it prediction. I'm just going to say, look, the whole BBC One Extra grime hip hop thing, it's going to collapse. I mean, this is going to be so embarrassing, because the things with liars and Satanists, they always congregate together. Yeah, that's their whole thing. Is like, we're devil worshippers and we hate God. We're atheists and we don't even believe in all that stuff. And they just lie and they congregate together, in these very powerful groups like Sunni Islam, yeah? And ISIS and what's happening in Syria, but that's another story. But the point is, other views are available, of course. I have to keep saying that, yeah? It's going to be a bit of a signature going forward where I have to caveat everything I say academically. I have my biases. Obviously, my biases is towards Shia Islam. But obviously, this is an academic research discussion to be transcribed and so on and so forth. So, you know, the Jay Z Supercell sci-fi is about sickle cell. That was like the big thing. Oh, it's for sickle cell, and it's obviously horrific, horrible sort of affliction to have, you know, disease to have. There are cures. There was I believe in New York, a young man. There was some research that was done that was very positive. The outcomes. So on raising awareness, always a good thing to raise awareness, of course. However, back to Supacell, the Netflix satanic series. Now that Ratman has been kicked off Rock Nation, he's been unceremoniously, I believe he removed himself. I did get an email from him. It was a horrible email. I sent an email to his new group. Just horrible. That whole media, BBC, Channel 4. I mean, it's not my world, of course, but it's just horrible. Just very satanic, yeah, I should say. So Ratman and Jay Z have parted ways. Maybe that's going to be a big first for people. So I've just interacted with someone on YouTube who claims, he just makes a claim, I'm not going to name his channel, but they claim they've had a conversation with Ratman, with Andrew, and he's made the bold assertion that season 2 is coming, but there's no production. I've checked the finances of Awesome Group, It's a Rap, New Wave Agency, whose website has gone. They were like the producers. And there's no production. Now, if anybody knows who Ratman, he's very vocal about, I'm a storyteller, you know, positive, yeah, I know I'm doing it, yeah. You know, it's all that energy. It's all very false because he's an actor. He actually says that he's an actor. So this persona, there's no production. None of the actors that were in the first episodes have come out and said, yeah, you know, the dates have been sealed where they're filming. None of that's happened because it's not going to happen. Because Supacell, named after a northern Muslim battery company called Multibrand, which no journalist bothered to say, well, why have you named a Netflix series after a North England battery? No one. I asked the question, of course, but no one listens to me. But anyway, so Supacell is not going to happen. There's not going to be a season 2 of Supacell. Forget it. It's just not going to happen. And if it does happen, Jay Z would have to be involved because, you know, he's the Jay Z's. What people have got to realize about Jay Z and Diddy and Beyonce is they're ghetto. They're very ignorant. These are very ignorant. Just because someone's a billionaire, they're still ignorant. Satanist, devil worshippers. They're no good. Degenerates, monsters. Yeah? And they're just no good. Reputationally, just by the fact of the music, the lyrics. Let's look at the lyrical content. You've got to look at the content. And that's... What's going on here? And that's really what I'm... Oh, yeah, the ticket sheer voice. So, I got distracted there. I'm going to leave that in. So, these very devilish individuals, wrong-uns, beasts, monster, they're just terrible. They're just awful people. And the idea that just because someone's got a Bentley or Mercedes or Ferrari, they must be venerated. Black excellence is just ridiculous. No. And let's just break it down before I'm going to play the track. What matters, and this is the crux of the Victory is in the Grave podcast, is morality and ethics. Do you care for the poor? Do you pray? Do you worship Allah? Are you cogent about the day of judgment? Are you fearful of the punishment of the grave? These are the quintessential determinants of good character, of the highest moral fortitude. Now, obviously, if you're a devil worshipping, I don't know, socialist who Sartre and Michel Foucault and these pedophile French philosophers, if you're into all that crap, then clearly all of what I've said is, you're just going to dismiss it in that very satanic, arrogant, hubristic way. But I don't care. Good. Right, let's get into the music, yeah? So I'm going to play this track. Now, the interesting thing about this track is you're hearing it first, for those who are tuned in. But inshallah, God willing, you're going to really hear it when Jay Z and P. Diddy, God willing, are in prison. You're really going to hear it then. But anyway, let's keep it pushing, yeah? I'll catch you after this vibe.
Jay Z worships Satan. Netflix is in hell. No sci-fi Supacell. Season 2 is done so. Beyonce a witch hoe. New wave agency is Satan's portal. Rapman owns no series. Supercell now ceases. Jay Z getting sued. Black boys getting used. Rock Nation is for Satan. Curse the rock, say amen. Diddy sucking semen. They are serving apes. Rapman works for my 5. Jay Z ends his Netflix. Nothing from the remix. Supercell is dead. Supercell is over. Corrupted by the hover. Zesty sucking demons. Hedonistic heathens. Rapman works for my 5. Jay Z ends his Netflix. Nothing from the remix. Supercell is dead. Supercell is over. Corrupted by the hover. Zesty sucking demons. Hedonistic heathens. Rapman works for my 5. Jay Z ends his Netflix. Nothing from the remix. Supercell is dead. Supercell is dead. Supercell is over. Corrupted by the hover. Zesty sucking demons. Hedonistic heathens.
Broadcasting across the city on 98.7 FM.
New Star Radio 98.7 FM. This is the Aston Walker Victories in the Grave podcast. Yeah, a new venture where I'll be doing a podcast, public speaking till I die, basically. This is it. I've reached the peak of my broadcast career powers, yeah? So, just a brief recap. I am a black Shia convert in the West, and my research area is graphene sensors, game development, sci-fi. I write sci-fi books. Just completed a 500-page, 120,000-word sci-fi book. I publish papers and research on Sunni Shia polemics. We're a multicultural society, a pluralistic society, and nowhere on out of 8 billion human beings, can you believe this? Out of 8 billion human beings, I'm the only black convert Shia Muslim talking about Shia Islam and Shia polemics on an Ofcom approved radio station in England. I'm the only one. I'm the first to do it. So this is another first. I was also the world's first. I made the world's first 4K black sci-fi superhero feature film called Victories in the Grave. Can you see a pattern here? Can you see what I'm doing here? So, and I made the title of my sci-fi novel is The Curzon Building. Yeah, named after Lord Curzon, the racist, mass murderer, viceroy, Satanist. May Allah curse him. So, The Curzon Building. So all of these firsts, it can get quite overwhelming, but I've kind of embraced it, you know. And going forward, the discussion, until I die, until I get to my grave, I want to see if my broadcasts and my podcasts, I am imagining that I'm in my grave, that I'm dead, and these podcasts are talking to me. So it's like macro retro causality. So it's like an event in the future informing the present, if you can get your head around that. Just think another Satanist, Christopher and Emma Nolan, two devils who are making the Odyssey now. More trash. But I like the film Tenet, of course. But anyway, so it's in that kind of vein, if you will. So all of my work, really, all of my broadcasts, I imagine myself in the grave and seeing them played back to me. So original. So maybe Banerjee, who I know a lot of you have never heard of, but they make a lot of the programs like MasterChef. So they make all these satanic Western Neanderthal hybrid ape Euro savage content that infects parasitically the two-dimensional satanic space. It's only two-dimensional, it's just images, yeah? So let me explain that concept. The Dajjal, Sunni Kuffar Dajjal. Other opinions are available, of course. Other Islamic scholarly opinions are available. I have to keep saying that. So the two-dimensional satanic Dajjal entity, whenever you go to a cinema, when you're streaming, when you're watching your Netflix, they're only two-dimensional images. Sorry to burst your bubble. So at a frame rate of 24 frames or 30 frames, it's like, and it fools your brain into thinking that you're seeing movement. So when you're there discussing this Marvel film or that Starship Troopers or Adolescence, which is quite current now, you're talking about watching two-dimensional rendered images. Highly embarrassing. It's the same as a flip book. Remember the cartoon Stickman? So I say this to say this. If Hollywood, Netflix, BBC, Channel 4 were to disappear tomorrow, humanity would be in a better place. Yeah? That's what this show is positing. That's what we're putting forward. That's what we postulate. These satanic two-dimensional entities and, you know, going live and putting yourself forward, and there are those who say, oh, well, Aston, you're a bit of a hypocrite. Now you're on the radar. Well, you can't see my face, can you? And when I put this on YouTube, I won't be using my face either. Yeah. So the whole satanic energy of people wanting to put themselves in front of a camera is Satanism. It's the alien. That is the alien invasion. YouTube, going live, Instagram. That is the alien invasion. That's the satanic invasion. It's not this thing that you think it is. Because it's ego. It's a two-dimensional ego. Now, Alan de Botton, who's a philosopher, great philosopher, he put forward, and I'm going to finish up on here actually, that if you raise a child that wants to be on television or in a film or wants to get validation from strangers, which is what an actor is basically, you haven't raised that child right. That is a poorly raised child, you see? And that's why I say the things that I say. New Star Radio 98.7 FM. This is the Victory is in the Grave show by Aston Walker. A new show, a new style, a new format that I will be doing till the day I die. Yes? Peace out. I'll catch you guys next week. Yeah? That's when I'll catch you. Where I'll be doing and saying the same thing. Again. It's sort of like Groundhog Day. Peace out. Love you all.
Majesty's care. Spreads his lies to the weak, His Majesty he fears. Every drop of blood spilled brings him closer near. Satan's a liar, he wants war and fire. Mankind in his grasp, but all law breaks his clasp. Hatred is raw, wants our hearts to burn, but His Majesty watches, His love we all yearn. Jahan, whom He calls, tries to lead us there, but with faith we stand tall in His Majesty's care.